Do you want to see what the wakeboard wake is like behind the new Centurion boats with the Opta V hull? Well, we're going to show you. What's up, everybody? My name is Mitch Mann. This is Dave Patterson, and we are coming here talking to you today about wakeboard wakes. And in particular, I've got the new Centurion Ri230 behind me here. And we went out this morning and took a little wakeboard set behind this boat and wanted to show you what the wakeboard wake is like behind the Ri230, as well as give you a little bit of a breakdown and talk about it. Now, Dave here is a wakeboarder that's from here locally here in Utah. He's been around the block a little bit, and one of the reasons why we wanted to have Dave come and ride and showcase his skills is number one, because he's a little better than average wakeboarder, so he can handle what this boat can throw out, as well as he's ridden behind a lot of different boats and can give us some feedback and some ideas. So Dave, this is the first time that you've taken a set behind a new Centurion Ri, really any of the new Centurions with the new Opta V hull design. Give me a breakdown about what went through your mind the first time you saw the wake and when you went out behind the boat and started riding on it.
Wow, first thing, I kind of have a little routine that I do as I get up to just kind of get a feel of the wake, and one of those is just going up and giving one nice little spray on the wave. And I'll be honest, it totally threw me off because I'm not used to hitting like a half pipe as I go up on that wave. So you'll see on that, if they show that footage, it was a much bigger wave than I'm used to. And it almost bucked me just as I was trying to play with it a little bit, but it was sweet.
Yeah. So to give you guys a little bit of background, Dave's ridden behind a lot of different boats, pretty much every single brand that's out there. Also ridden behind different professional riders' boats that are stacked with a whole bunch of additional weight and things like that. The wake that we had set up in this Ri, we didn't even have full stock ballast filled, let alone additional weight. We were running at about 75–80% of full weight capacity. We could have done a little bit more, but you're getting a little old and you're throwing everything that this boat can do at you might be a little bit much. It'd be way too much for me. But so talk to me about not just the wake itself, but the shape of the wake and what it feels like when you're cutting up, and what the boost or the kick on the lip of the wake on this boat is like.
Yeah, for sure. No, the first hit I did, I don't know if you'll be able to zoom in on my face, but I felt like I was almost rolling down the windows just because, it just booted me straight up, and it felt awesome. The wake was super clean, and I think the angle of the wake really just projected me in a way. It didn't buck me in a way. It was just nice and smooth. I loved it.
Yeah, for any of you who've ridden behind some different boats, there's a few different wakes that are out there that have like a buck sensation when you come up, almost like it has a trough that drops down, and then it's almost like a springboard that shoots you straight up, which if you're not prepared for, if you're not a advanced enough rider to handle, it can really throw you off, and that's where people can get twist it upside down and to the side and that, because you don't have a lot of control. How is the release off the top of the wake on this boat? Is it more controlled of a release, or is it more of an aggressive, just a super aggressive pop and snap on the top?
To me, it felt like just almost like a kicker, you know, like from the wakeboard parks, just a nice smooth transition, perfect lip. Because, you know, coming back, I mean, this was the first time I've ridden in, well, this year, and it felt like I was just right back on the horse just because it felt so smooth.
Yeah. So the wakeboard wake dynamics on the Centurion boats, on the new boats with the Opti-V hull, they have a bit of a lip and a kick at the top of the wake, but it's a little bit longer, smoother transition. So it'll help you on landings and makes it so that when you come down, it's not just an instantaneous hard impact, but it's a little bit smoother transition coming down off the wake. So as far as that goes, the size. So obviously, you said when you were carving up at the first, it was a little bit big. So how is this compared to other boats that you've ridden behind, and particularly ones that are really slammed and sacked out?
I mean, not to sound cheesy, but it was the biggest wake that I've hit. And yeah, it was so fun. It made me, I wish I was 10 years younger. Because
I think we all do.
Yeah, my back wasn't really prepared for what we just endured. But yeah, it was awesome.
And that's one of the things to point out is when we were driving, Dave was riding, he was riding at 22.8 miles an hour, so not running super fast, but also not super slow. But you can slow down and the wake will maintain its consistency on this boat as low as like 19 miles an hour. We can also speed it up and go as fast as 27, 28 if we want to get really crazy like we used to do back in the day. But it's a matter of that the wake will typically stay really clean and consistent on both sides. You really have to put a fairly significant amount of weight to one side or the other to get it to wash out or to break down. And that's because of the balance points that exist on the Opti-V hull. Rather than putting a giant flat spot through the center of the boat, they actually have balance pads on the sides of the boat that make it so it stays balanced. So even if you move and distribute weight around, the wake stays clean and consistent across the board.
That was something I noticed for sure, because I'm so used to being on the back there or, getting towed. And I'm always screaming and yelling at people to sit in certain areas to clean up the wake. And it never even occurred to me just because the wake was looking perfect on both sides.
Yeah, so, well, and to that point, one of the things that oftentimes people hear that we get feedback on is they're hearing, hey, we know Centurion's known as the best surf boat out there, but the wakeboard wake isn't that great. If you want to have a boat that's great for wakeboarding and great for surfing, you really got to move to a different brand. Which most of the time, if they get that feedback, they're used to older edition Centurion boats from back in a previous era, well before the new Opti-V hull design. So Dave, you've ridden on a lot of different other Centurion wakes before. How does the new RIs compare to the older boats that you've ridden on?
Oh man, night and day. That's exactly what I remember is, on those old Enzo hulls, it was like, man, you had to have things so perfect, and one was just off a little bit. And like I said, I was out there and didn't even, and I'm just, I guess, a little OCD on that. And I looked at the wake and it just looked balanced. Even when people, like, they weren't centered and balanced in the boat perfectly, the wake was perfect.
Yeah, and that's really due to the idea of what they tried to achieve with the Opti-V hull design, was a boat that would still surf on the same level or even better than previous edition Centurion hulls, but that would throw out a really clean, consistent wakeboard wake on both sides. It isn't going to get washed out or break down. And particularly, this is the real test of a boat hull, is if you continue to add weight into the boat, does the wake maintain its shape? Does it continue to be clean and consistent, or does it start to break down? And in this boat, like I said, we run about 80% ballast, but that's 80% of the 5,200 pounds of ballast that this boat packs. And so we were running about 4,600 pounds of ballast in this boat, all factory installed. And we had 4 of us in the boat while Dave was riding. And so it's, I mean, the weight kind of speaks for itself in that regard. So, so to that point, if you wanted to see what the wakeboard, if you're really into wakeboarding, or you're going, hey, we love surfing, but we like to take wakeboard set from time to time and really rip around, you can see in the video here what this boat can really do, how it can perform. And just keep in mind, the wake doesn't have to be as big as the one we just drew out, but we wanted to show you what the potential of this boat is you can reduce that wake pretty significantly and empty all the ballast out, and the wake still stays clean and smooth at almost any speed. So it really helps a ton. So we want to give you a snapshot of what that is like. Now, this is the Ri230, which of the Ri series boats in the Centurion lineup, it actually does throw the best wakeboard wake of the three. That's pretty typical with almost all wakeboard boats. As you go bigger in size, the wake, it still is a good wakeboard wake, but it can't handle quite as much weight in the boat. And so if you're wanting pro level wakes, the Ri230 is going to deliver the best bet. The Ri245 is still a phenomenal wakeboard boat, even at pro level. Just can't handle quite as much weight as the 230. And then the 265 is not, I wouldn't consider it to be a pro level wakeboard boat. It's the best surf boat on the planet right now. But it's still going to throw a great wakeboard wake, especially for recreational riding. It's going to be way more than adequate for what most people need. So, but cool. Dave, any last final words of wisdom or thoughts?
No, just thanks for having me out. It was a blast, kind of a blast from the past, but loved it.
Absolutely. So hope this gives you a good idea of what to expect with the wakeboard wakes on the new Centurion boats. I might add, we're on a Centurion Ri here, but really any of the boats in the Centurion lineup or even into the Supreme lineup is going to have a similar wakeboard performance to what you just saw. May not be able to put quite as much weight in it or have the wake be quite as big, but if you're not an advanced rider like what you're seeing in the video here today, that may be totally fine for you, maybe plenty adequate. So whether it's a bigger boat, a smaller boat, any of the boats that are built on that Opti-V hull platform are going to deliver a smooth and consistent wakeboard wake with a nice kick, long transition so that when you land it's nice and soft, but it's also not going to be too abrupt and difficult to control coming off the top. So we appreciate you spending some time here with us and checking out the wakeboard wakes on the new Centurion boats. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to us. We're happy to help. Visit boardcoboats.com for more information. Thanks a ton, and we'll see you later.